go. I'm never going to have a better call than this. Hello.
Oh my gosh,
You got back. You cannot be a pushover. Nobody is going to respect you. We got to get going on that. Be comfortable when you're sick, stats creep. You're also stunting your life. I don't know if that was helpful. This is Work Like a Girl. I'm Erika Nardini. This is our call-in show where we dispense all sorts of advice to women and all sorts of people who want to get ahead in their career. Danielle?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm driving to Columbus because I got tagged in last minute to speak on a panel at a national conference, which I have never done before. So looking for some motivation tips on, speaking on a panel when you have a little bit of imposter syndrome.
Oh, I love that. Congratulations. Are you excited?
Yeah, a little bit nervous, but excited. I think I know what I'm talking about, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, I love it. So here would be first of all, congratulations. It's so cool. It means your company trusts you and you'll crush it. You probably want to write down like the 3 things you want to say. Like you don't want to have more than 3 things you want to say because let's be honest, nobody remembers what the fuck you say on a panel anyways. And all you want to do is, appear somewhat professional and smart. And it's a bonus if you can come off as funny.
Perfect. Those are great tips.
You can do that. The other thing is don't wear a short skirt because usually the seats are like at like an uncomfortable level and then the people will see right up your crotch. So you don't want to feel uncomfortable.
I'm going with a jumpsuit, so I'm hoping.
Oh, I love a jumpsuit.
Yeah, they have pockets, that's the best part of it.
Totally. So, okay, other things for a panel. Okay, here would be my biggest piece of advice on a panel is you're going to get bored because you're going to have like a guy who's like 2 chairs down who's so boring and loves to hear himself talk and he's going to be like womp, 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 womp. Don't zone out because then if the question comes back to you and you're zoned out and it's super easy to zone out, then you're going to feel stupid.
Okay, no, that's very important. I think sometimes my brain tends to drift off pretty quickly.
Same, and you got to work on it. You got to be like, I'm listening.
Awesome. Well, very much appreciated.
And then there's like added points if you can create like somewhat of a disagreement because panels are in general boring and everybody just wants to hear themselves talk and then they all agree with one another. So if you can get like a titch of a disagreement in there, it will help you stand out. Also, conferences are a great way to get your next job. So keep that in mind too.
Oh, all right. I mean, I will. I'm not sure. I don't think my boss listens, but I don't think, always good to keep the door open.
Okay, good. All right. Well, good luck, Danielle.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good luck with the rest of the episode.
Hi, Erika.
What's going on?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great.
I have a question. So, I recently switched jobs for about like 2.5 years. I was like I worked at a Big 4 accounting firm. So I was like a major like auditor and crazy hours and I was always busy. And after a while, I started to get burnt out. And I ended up taking a new job because my old company, I just didn't really see myself staying there for much longer anyways. So I was wondering, have you ever dealt or experienced burnout in a job? And what was your experience like switching jobs?
So I think everybody gets burnt out at some point, like for some reason, you know what I mean? Like you could get burnt out because you're working crazy hours or you get burnt out because you got a lot going on in your personal life or you get burnt out because things are kind of tedious and you're like, I'm not so into this and I'm not energized about things in the way that you used to. I think the worse you feel about your job, the more you get burnt out. Like I think burnout is almost more of a symptom of like your emotional state about how you feel about your job versus like the actual work or the hours. Like the work and the hours contribute to it, but it has a lot to do with how you feel. And then the hard thing is when you're burnt out and tired and then you start the next job where you have to be up with people and have all sorts of energy and you want to be new and fresh to something, it almost feels more stressful because you're like, ugh, I'm still tired from the last place. So I've definitely dealt with that. I think the biggest thing, if it's kind of a luxury, but when you're switching jobs, if you can take 2 weeks off between jobs, I think that is, that's awesome. It's a good way to disconnect. It's a good way to recharge. It's a good way to like reset and, kind of wash yourself of the last place and get yourself ready for the next place. Not everybody has that luxury though. And I think one of the things that's really hard is that, you're when people change jobs, their former manager usually doesn't want them to leave. So they want to keep you as long as possible. And then your new manager wants you as early as possible. So as the employee, you get kind of screwed in the middle. But the first thing I would say is get time off. The second thing I would say is when you're new on a job, it's not as intense as it's going to be. Like you have kind of the honeymoon period of like it's kind of easy, or you're not fully up to speed, or you don't own everything. So try to get some rest and try to get some sleep in that period. Try not to work crazy hours just because you can and because you're used to it. And then the last thing is like make sure every day like you're taking time for yourself in a new job. Like a new job is a great opportunity to set new patterns where you're like, hey, I go for a run at lunch, or I used to show up at work at 8:30 in the morning. I'm going to show up at 9:15 and get a workout in, or sleep an extra 20 minutes, or actually eat breakfast instead of like, hoovering a bunch of coffee. So
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much.
So wait, how long are you into your new job?
I'm about a month in, and I think it's definitely like getting better from when I first started. And I totally feel you like on the honeymoon phase of things. And then also like I completely like switched industries from what I was doing before. I'm still doing accounting, but I'm working on like a different type of project. So it's been like a lot to take in, but I think I'm just like learning to like be patient with myself. And I think that's important too.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's easy when you shift industries to feel really stupid. It's because you're like, fuck, I don't know what these people are talking about. So try not to be so hard on yourself. Like you're not an expert, but you are going to look back in 3 months and be like, oh my God, I've learned so much and I really didn't know anything back then,
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, Haley, good luck.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day, Erika.
You too. Have a great day.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Tell me what your question is.
Question is, I think, when it comes to a toxic culture in a work setting, like sometimes we see it when it's at this point break and it's too little, too late. What are some red flags that we can look for early on to almost correct a course of action before we get to that breaking point?
And are you asking this as like a manager or a boss, or you're an employee? Like who are you in your toxic or non-toxic environment?
I wouldn't say it's me in a toxic environment specifically. I think it's, in general when, people are looking to take on a new role, or you find yourself on a team that has its own maybe culture within, maybe a subculture within the company culture itself too. Figuring out how to navigate a correction course to, make that culture that much better, more exciting, and not get to that point of a burnout for whatever you're working on.
Yeah, I think that, so here's what I would say. One is, I think it's easy for work culture to get toxic. Like all it really takes is one person who is disgruntled or hates things or just is whiny and negative to like bring the whole group down. So I think whenever you're with a team or a group dynamic, doesn't have to be at work, could be in a class, could be in a friend group, it doesn't matter. Like you gotta I think have a good read on people of like, is everybody at the same level? Like, are they positive? Are they committed to what you're trying to do? Are they invested in it? Are they supportive of other people in that group? Do they contribute? Like I think you gotta look at the people at the table first, because it's all going to come down, whether things are great or they're toxic or there's something in between, is going to come down to the people at the table. I think when you're joining a group or you're interviewing for someone to come into your group, sometimes I think it's a really good idea to like try to get as much, and it's obviously hard in a pandemic time, but like try to get some unstructured personal time with that person. So that could be a coffee, that could be a lunch, that could be kind of like a free form conversation. But I always feel like anyone can interview well, right? Like anyone can bullshit you through an interview. But if you spend time with people, that you really start to see their true colors and you start to see who they are and how they show up and really what they're about. So my advice would be like really get an understanding of the players and the power dynamics and just where everybody's at and what level they're on. And I don't mean like work career level. I just mean like emotional person level. I think the second thing is if you're coming into a group and there's toxicity, you got to get the toxicity out. Like very rarely do toxic people become non-toxic. In fact, it like never ever happens in my opinion. So whenever I was a new manager to a team or came into a place, I would always create within 3 months max a lot of change. One, because the groups typically needed it, but two, is it sidelines the toxic people and it creates more opportunity for the invested, positive, great people. And then the last thing is like, I think toxicity is kind of like bullying, where you got to like call it what it is and say it to its face. And if you're having to interface with a toxic person, like probably the best way to address it is to be super blunt about it and to that person. Like I had a situation last night, like we have a person here who's kind of toxic. And that person basically goes and slacks and slacks and texts people just all the time about how much everybody else sucks. Everyone knows that the person does it, and everyone is like already talking to one another about those text exchanges or about those slacks. And I think if people really want to change things, they got to be like, don't be like that.
That is incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Let's go. I'm never going to have a better call than this. Hello.
Oh my gosh, I got
big. You cannot be a pushover. Nobody is going to respect you. We got to get going on that. Be comfortable when your six stats creep. You're also stunting your life. I don't know if that was helpful.